Empire Ears just did something crazy.
What? They took an endgame $3,400 IEM that everyone called perfect?
And somehow made it even better. Let's talk about it.
Yes, you heard that right. The ODIN MKII just knocked its predecessor off the throne.
The original ODIN was legendary, 4 years at the top, setting every standard for flagship IEMs.
But the MKII, we're talking next level engineering, refining everything, and a sound signature that somehow improves on perfection.
Spoiler alert, they absolutely nailed it. And if you want to see more flagship breakdowns like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into it. Natural balance, technical mastery, and perfect bass control. Those are the characteristics of a legendary IEM like the ODIN. With a legendary status and a sound quality that borders on perfect, how do you improve on perfection?
This is really interesting. So normally when somebody comes out with a new version of an IEM, there are two things that can possibly happen. You can totally redesign, or you can take what you have existing and sort of change it and make it better. You know, looking at the list of drivers that are used, there's a lot of similarities between the two, but they did change up how many drivers in each nomenclature that they used, and it changed the sound. Is the sound dramatically different or improved? I mean, at this price point, it's really hard, like we said, to change perfection. The original ODIN is, you know, one of my top 5 all-time IEMs. This will definitely dethrone the original ODIN, and it'll be in that top 5 list, and I have to push somebody out, right? I can't keep everybody. I'm not gonna keep the ODIN 1 and the ODIN 2 in there. So what they've done is, and some of our past customers had noted this, that the top end or the presentation was a little too analytical. For you guys that know me very well, I'm an analytical freak. I don't like bright headphones. Let's be, you know, safe to say that, first of all. But I like a lot of detail, resolution, clarity, tight control of the bass, fast pace. I use a lot of the stuff that I listen to, unfortunately, since I've been in the business for so long, as a tool to listen to all of the equipment in the system. Headphones, IEMs included in that system part, right? So essentially, I don't want to lose any of that. And I've lost none of that with the new MKII, but what they've managed to do, and this is sort of what they did with the Utopia, is they've smoothed out the top a little bit. Not to the extent of what they did with the new Utopia over the original Utopia, it's much warmer. This is still the ODIN characteristic, and it's impressive how they've really kept the bones of the ODIN while changing a lot of the driver configurations. You can still hear the original ODIN, but they've improved upon it, smoothing out the top end. So now I've got both incredible resolution, but in you know, some bad recordings where we can have some issues, it smooths it out that, you know, nothing I listened to really had a problem with edginess or sibilance or anything on the top end. Not that I really had a whole lot of that with the original ODIN, but it's even better now with the MKII. I've noticed that the energy is, you're gonna watch the making of this IEM by Empire Ears. They did a great video. I recommend watching it. And he talks about, you know, the biggest thing that he tried to do, Dean, was to improve sort of the way it makes you feel in your heart, right? There's an immediate sense of energy that we're not talking about overwhelming bloated bottom end bass, but you feel everything.
Yeah,
right?
It's like an emotion. It's hard to explain.
It is. It's really wild, right? And it's amazing that you can do this with an IEM, a small thing that goes in your ear, and it creates this sense of just energy. The original ODIN had a really great soundstage and presentation, and it had great bass. Don't get me wrong, but something about the new tuning and the way the bass works and how it flows into the mid-range, there's just such an incredible energy, and it's not too much, it's not too little, it's right there in the middle, and it's fantastic. They've really knocked it out of the park. I thought, you know, when they came out with the Raven, that had a lot of that energy. This is better, it's refined, it's cleaner, it's more controlled. Knocked it out of the park, guys.
Yeah, I think when you get a flagship IEM like the ODIN that has this cult-like following, and for like 4 years now, you know, new releases come out, but people always go back to that tried and true. So when you find out that they're reiterating it, you kind of go, are they reinventing the wheel? Or like you mentioned, are they doing something entirely new? Well, it's safe to say that this is just a refinement and an enhancement. If you loved the sound of the ODIN, then you're going to love the Mark II. They just took everything that was great with the ODIN. You got that nice balanced sound, accurate, articulate presentation, like Drew was saying, great for those detailed, analytical, discerning listeners. And they just leveled it up. You get a little more dynamic. I felt like I had more dynamic range with this. bass. Definitely smoother top end, like you mentioned, and just like a livelier presentation without being warm. I definitely don't want to say that it falls in the category of warm. It is natural and articulate and detailed sounding while just being full of character and life and emotion more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you'll see in their video is they talk about how the family gets their start from being in live music, right? And so something that you get when you go to a concert, you know, you feel the energy of the million speakers that are in front of you on a stage, right? And that's really hard to reproduce at home or in a headphone or whatnot. And he's really trying to get sort of that same sort of energy and presentation of what you're getting in a live setting without making it too much like a studio monitor, if you will, because a lot of the studio monitors, they're trying to do that so that they can mix, you know, whatever they're recording and changing. This is going to be a remarkable piece, I think, for everybody, and not just the audiophiles, but the person that just wants to get lost in the music because, you know, again, they've smoothed it out. I wouldn't say it's on the warm side, but it's definitely not on the forward side, but it's just, you know, it's so balanced. It's really nice, and you're really going to get lost in the music, or if you really want to sit back and listen to nuances, it's there for you.
Yeah, and while I would classify myself as an audiophile, I will say I'm not necessarily a discerning listener. I am somebody who's warm and musical, and I love to get lost in the sound. Vocals, lyrics, instrumentation are all really important elements to me when it comes to music and audio gear. So yeah, with the ODIN MKII, they just hit the nail on the head with that. And as somebody who kind of felt like the ODIN was a little almost borderline reference sounding for me, I was shocked to have fallen in love with the ODIN MKII.
All right, shall we talk about the design?
Yes, because as you can tell, there has been a lot that has changed between the two.
You'll notice, and it's hard to see really with these spaced apart, but the new ODIN is slightly larger than the original ODIN. I wouldn't call these large IEMs, I wouldn't call them small either, right? Going back to the days of the JH Audio Full Metal Jacket IEMs, these were pretty large and they were pretty heavy. The cool thing about today with a lot of the IEMs that are coming out, they're playing around with materials to try and keep getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And what this translates in is to better fit and feel in your ears. You know, I don't find that these are weighing down. The cable location and where they use the female 2-pin connection lines the cable hook up right to go right around your ears. I don't notice that it's sticking out. You know, the importance is the lighter you can keep the IEM, the less you're going to notice really the physical size of an IEM in your ear, right? I didn't find that I was knocking into it when I moved my hands around or something like that. It was a perfect fit. It was very comfortable. They did change the throat of the IEM. It's now got a better wraparound section to hold on the tips. That'll work a lot better. The original one was a little slick and sometimes the tips would pop off depending on which sizes you're going to use. Make sure to buy a whole bunch of tips to try out to get the right fit finish for you. I mean, the most important thing about universal IEMs are the tips to get that perfect seal. If the tips that come with the Empire ears don't work for you, head out to a store and buy all kinds of different types and find what fits for you. Our ears are like a fingerprint. No two are the same, so you got to find the right tips for your ears.
Yep, and going off that, I know for me, IEMs are always a little difficult for me. Smaller ones, they usually fit well, but sometimes I have a problem with seal, and if it's not seal, then it's fit and comfort. So, you know, when I saw these at first, I was like, oh, well, those are a little bit on the larger side than what I'm used to with the ODIN. Are they still gonna fit my small ears? Well, they fit. Perfect seal, perfect comfort. I was able to enjoy a snack at my desk while I listened, and I didn't have any problems with the seal or any popping. What these remind me of is the Novus. It reminds me of the Novus, the Raven. I'm wondering, is this the next generation of Empire Ears IEMs? Is this what we're gonna get from the design and overall aesthetic of universal IEMs? It's got a 24-karat gold-plated faceplate, super flashy. It is engraved, so you can kind of see. It's got some nice subtle details to it compared to the finish that you've got here on this faceplate. I would say they're night and day different, so you can't really compare the two in that regard. It just depends, you know, if you like bling, then you're gonna like this.
They're much more refined. I mean, the original acrylic ones are very, you know, synonymous with what a custom IEM looks like, you know, right? They took a custom but turned it sort of into a universal, whereas this, you look at it, this was designed to be a universal IEM. You know, all the cups or the casing going forward, I think, are gonna have this look. You know, it looks like they're, you know, manufacturing these as separate pieces and assembling them together. They don't look like the original ODIN where it's sort of made the same way they would do a custom IEM. So they're refining things, they're improving technology, they're getting production done faster and quicker to get more things out into the market quicker. Hats off off to what they're doing in engineering over there.
Yep, and you've got your 2-pin connection, so if you do have any other Empire Ears IEMs, you can go ahead and cable swap if that's what you're about. And speaking of cable swap, we want to provide you with our recommendations for our upgraded cable. Pick one of our Dragon IEM cables, bronze, black, or silver. My choice is bronze. What's yours, Drew?
My choice, I always got to go with the silver. I mean, I need detail resolution. I think even on this one, it was a better fit with the Silver Dragon than it was on the original Odin. The original Odin, again, I'm always looking for detail and resolution, but I love now, what I've tried to do with my Silver Dragon is to smooth out the top a little bit. It really lines up much better with the newer Odin than the original one. Yeah, Silver Dragon for me. She obviously liked the Bronze Dragon. Look, if you want a combination of some of the detail and resolution from the silver, some of the boldness and the bottom end of the bronze, then you go with the black because it's a combination of silver and copper. It's the only cable that we have that does that, so you'll get a little bit of both worlds.
Yeah, I agree. As a musical listener, I'm always kind of going between the bronze and the black dragon, and for this one, if you do like warm and musical presentation and you want, just a little more low-end presentation, maybe a little more oomph in the mid-range, you really can't go wrong with either one of those two cables.
So let's talk about the drivers in the IEM. So I'm gonna have to go off of lists because there's way too many drivers to talk about, but I understand now what I'm hearing based on what they've done. So like in the original Odin, they were using 4 premium electrostatic drivers. That's where we got the analytical, the resolution, the detail, the top-end energy. On the Odin 2, they reduced it down to dual electrostatic drivers. They still have 11 drivers in each one of them, same amount, but they've reconfigured how many drivers they used in each situation. They're using the same amount of bass drivers. What they've done is everything in sort of the mid-range and the lower top end, they've swapped around with different numbers. We still have 11 drivers, but I think the biggest thing to note really is that change from 4 electrostatics to 2. I'm still getting the same energy. I've created a little smoother top end. I think that's part of the reason why we had so much energy on the top end from the original. There were 4 electrostatics, and that was like unheard of at the time, right?
Yeah.
So, he's constantly tweaking to find really perfection. It's all about perfections, and he created this IEM, Dean did, for essentially what he wanted. This IEM was for himself, right? And the fact that, I'm so happy with it, he really hears what's going out in the world and what everybody wants from these IEMs, and he's just constantly hitting it out of the park with improvements to make it just right.
And you've got 2 bone conduction drivers in here. That's gonna lend some of that visceral kind of physical element that we were talking about when you're listening and you're feeling it in your chest, and it's like a sound you can't really describe. Well, that's that bone conduction at work right there.
Yeah, and that first started, I think it was the Legend X Evo is where we first had the bone conduction, and each iteration that they've worked with that on each one of these IEMs, it's got better each time, and this time it's fantastic, and I think that's where we're sort of feeling that heart pounding, but not overly, bloated bottom end. You're feeling the bottom end energy, which is really cool and hard to do. So they're killing it with the bone conduction too.
To round it out for features, we've got some 2nd generation technology in here. You've got the anti-resonance control, dual conduction architecture, and that just kind of helps with transients, sonic realism, just blending everything harmoniously together.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about resonance control in everything that we use in audio, right? It's something that can really cause problems in speakers, in, equipment with transformers that are vibrating and stuff like that. It can have a negative effect, and by taming these resonance, it really essentially creates a tighter control of what's going on with the music. Because resonance inside a chamber can add extra sound waves that aren't necessarily from the actual signal themselves. It's what's going on with things vibrating. If you can take care of that, that's really going to clean things up, and that's the difference between a clean IEM and one that sounds a little rough. Because I think it's important, why don't you tell me a little more about the bone conduction?
Okay, so it's got the dual conduction architecture in here, and what that means is it's channeling everything from air and bone conduction pathways simultaneously, so you get that sonic realism, and then, like Drew mentioned, that anti-resonance control, that's helping with the acoustic pathways, so you're getting that darker background, those tighter transients like you mentioned, and then just minimal structural coloration. So with 11 drivers, improved technology, a beautiful build design, the Odin MKII is just a force to be reckoned with. I had an amazing time listening to this at my desk. I opted for the Estelle & Kern SP3000M DAP. This has been my favorite DAP, and I've kind of been hoarding it at my desk when I can, hogging it away from everybody else, and then the Bronze Dragon IEM cable was the perfect fit for this.
Yeah, so I've been chained to my computer computer for a couple of weeks now, working on a lot of design projects. So I decided to use the Valkyrie as my test platform to listen to the IEMs. I mean, that's a great dual purpose amp DAC that is for headphones and IEMs. They've got the great impedance matching on that device that I highly recommend playing around with on IEMs. It was a fantastic match. I channeled it through from my computer using Rune to play around with our massive music library here, and I went through the gambit on different types of music, from classical to EDM. I mean, all over the place. 8 hours a day for about 4 days straight, just nonstop listening to all kinds of music. Just put it on shuffle. Fantastic time, great pairing. So that's, the Valkyrie is definitely a wonderful match for this IEM. No background hiss or any kind of conflict of interest, if you will, from a design standpoint, a circuit design standpoint. So it was fantastic. What do we think the verdict is?
Here's our take. If you own the Empire Ears Odin IEM and you're absolutely in love with it, the Mark II is worth the upgrade.
Sell it.
If you don't own the Odin, but you've heard a lot about it and you're extra curious, jump right to the Mark II. You really can't go wrong. The Empire Ears Odin Mark II IEM proves that sometimes the best way forward is to build upon perfection rather than reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. For more information on the Odin MKII, check out our review linked in the description below, and head to moon-audio.com to place your order today. Drop a comment below if you're considering upgrading from the original, and don't forget to subscribe for more hi-fi content.
The perfect IEM for you is just a couple clicks away. We'll see you right back here next time for another Moon Audio video. Thanks so much for watching.
Take care.